Gunslingers, masterminds, gangs, cattle rustlers, bank robbers, prostitutes, property owners, heavy drinkers, and notorious killers. All the traits of a group of outlaws called the Wild Bunch.
The Wild Bunch were a group of Western outlaws in the 1800s that stole the attention of the American public. They experienced triumph and tragedy throughout their reign in the Wild West by robbing banks and trains. Each coming from different backgrounds, the Wild Bunch were drawn to the mysterious freedom of the Wild West. The group consisted of Butch Cassidy, Harry Longabaugh, Ben Kilpatrick, Harvey Logan, William Carver, George Curry, Laura Bullion, and Elsie Lay.
The Wild Bunch were idolized by the American public because of the romanticized Wild West. They did not kill unless they had to, and they performed robberies like the American public had never seen.
Robert Leroy Parker grew up in a Mormon household with his 13 other siblings. His father, Maximilian Parker, a Dutch immigrant, was a failed rancher and was also in trouble with the Mormon Church. He was in trouble over land, and Robert, at a young age, was often having to find work and would be away from home for long months at a time. While Robert was in his early teens, he worked on a dairy ranch in Circleville, Utah. There he met his lifelong mentor, Mike Cassidy. Mike Cassidy, a cattle rustler in the area, taught Robert how to shoot a gun, ride a horse, and the way of outlaws. Butch did not want to disgrace his strict Mormon mother, so he took the name Butch after working as a butcher in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and the last name Cassidy after his mentor. He then moved from Utah to Telluride, Colorado, and became a miner. He began to drink and was introduced to prostitution. While Robert Leroy Parker was growing up in Mormon country, Harry Longabaugh was growing up in booming Pennsylvania. He grew up in the hustle and bustle and would spend his time reading stories about Jesse James in the Wild West. He soon began to idolize outlaws like Ben Doolin, and in 1886 he moved to Cortez, Colorado to help his uncle run a ranch. But the year after, the blizzard of 1887 hit, and it left most of the cattle dead, which meant that he could no longer work for his uncle, and he had ventured on to the outlaw life. Harry was then caught stealing horses in Sundance, Wyoming, which landed him in jail and got him his nickname, the Sundance Kid.
On the morning of July 24, 1889, 3 bandits made off with over $24,000 in cash and gold. This money was supposed to go to local miners. These 3 outlaws were Butch Cassidy, Tom McCarthy, and Matt Warner. San Miguel Bank in Telluride, Colorado, was in downtown near saloons. Telluride was known for its elusive outlaws and miners. The town is named after the 4 words, "To Hell You Ride." Entering the San Miguel Bank with only one teller, they held a gun to his head but never shot. After they stole the money, 3 bandits rode down Main Street, shooting their guns into the air. Their getaway was even more remarkable than the robbery itself. These bandits had horses staged along their route so they could switch them out and so they wouldn't slow them down. These horses were in places along the Green River and basins. This robbery, although it being Butch Cassidy's first, proved to the American public that if the Wild Bunch didn't have to kill, they wouldn't. Near Grand Junction, Colorado, on November 3, 1887, the Wild Bunch were going to rob the Rio Grande Express, but the train guard wouldn't open the safe. The Wild Bunch left the train with nothing, and the train moved on towards Denver, Colorado. This proved that the Wild Bunch did not kill unless they had to.
On April 22, 1897, the Wild Bunch made their way to Castlegate, Utah, along the Outlaw Trail. They ambushed a crew of men carrying the payroll for miners of the Pleasant Valley Coal Company. They made off with some $7,000 in gold before fleeing back to Robber's Roost. The American public were fascinated that the Wild Bunch had not been caught, and they were taking the money of innocent, hard-working miners. On a chilly June morning in 1899 at 2:15 a.m., Cassidy, Curry, Logan, and Lay stopped a train, warning the conductor of ruined tracks. The train's roof and sides soon were blasted off by dynamite, and the conductor fell unconscious. The Wild Bunch had revolutionized the way banks and trains were robbed. The Wild Bunch again had a successful robbery without killing anyone. Newspapers all over the U.S. told stories about the Wilcox robbery, and even cartoons were made. This robbery caught the attention of the Union Pacific Railroad, and they wanted nothing more than to catch this tricky group of outlaws.
The Wild Bunch changed many things that have later affected the way the outlaws looked to the public and were treated. They posed a great position in the history of the Wild West by affecting later generations. These outlaws are an important staple to American public and shows great importance in the history of the Wild West. These group of outlaws are still known throughout America because of their importance in American history as the last of the outlaws.
Brown's Park was a known place for cattle rustlers and outlaws, and that is where Butch recruited most of the Wild Bunch. Ranchers like John Jarvie and the Bassett family showed kindness to the Wild Bunch and gave them horses, food, and room to stay in. Butch Cassidy began to court Josie Bassett, and though their relationship quickly ended, they remained friends. While the Wild Bunch weren't robbing banks and trains, they were hiding out in places like Brown's Park, Robber's Roost, Hole in the Wall, and the Black Mountains of South Dakota. Ann Bassett, also known as Queen Anne from her cattle rustling days, grew up in Brown's Park and at the age of 15 began to date Butch Cassidy. Her father, Herb Bassett, did business with this group of outlaws, and Anne began to grow closer to not only Butch but other members of the Wild Bunch. Etta Place dated the Sundance Kid in the 1880s and is believed to be either a prostitute or a runaway mother from San Antonio. Etta and Anne are believed to be the same people, though when Etta, Butch, and Harry were in Bolivia, Anne was supposedly getting married to a rancher in Browns Park. Dr. Thomas Kyle took a picture of both women to compare and concluded that they were the same people except for a small scar on the scalp. Even the Pinkerton National Detective Agency had a description of the women almost the same.
A Browns Park resident that helped the gang of outlaws wrote in a journal, "I goofed. It wasn't at a place I met. It was Sundance's other girlfriend, Ann Bassett." Butch Cassidy was known as the mastermind who planned the Wild Bunch robberies, and he was also the leader of the gang, which made him an easy target for the Pinkerton National Detective Agency. The Union Pacific Railroad hired the agency to catch the Wild Bunch. The agency was founded by Allen Pinkerton in 1850. In 1862, he was hired by Abraham Lincoln to secure military information. Afterwards, the agency became very popular. They began tracking serial numbers to catch the Wild Bunch. This was a very advanced investigation method for the time. After the Wilcox robbery, the Pinkerton National Detective Agency began to catch up with some of the members of the Wild Bunch, and most fled to New York, where they blended in by going to operas, shopping, and eating at fancy restaurants. The Wild Bunch posed as big cattlemen from the West. Butch Cassidy realized that communication had improved throughout the Wild West, and they could no longer rob banks and trains without being caught, so he fled to Argentina with the Sundance Kid and Etta Place. Argentina wasn't as advanced. It was a place that they could start over.
For the next 2 years, Etta acted as Sundance's wife and Butch as Sundance as ranchers. Back in America, the Pinkerton Agency was doing everything they could to find the bunch, seeing as the rest of the group was either dead or in prison. The agency had over 1,000 detectives working for them, and they started tracking the Wild Bunch by serial numbers and money from the Wilcox robbery. The Pinkerton Agency caught up to them after intercepting a letter Sundance wrote back to his family in Pennsylvania. Butch and Sundance were tipped off, and Etta suddenly disappeared. Etta was never seen again, and speculations suggest she went back to America and changed her identity. The pair then fled to a small town and hid in a small house. The Pinkerton Agency notified the Bolivian police, and they surrounded the small house. There was said to be a small shootout, and Butch and Sundance were shot and killed, while other theories suggest that Butch shot Sundance in the head before taking his own life. They may have even made it back to America because their bodies were never identified. Rumors even suggest that Butch Cassidy went to New York and underwent many surgeries to change his identity. Many Browns Park residents said that Butch Cassidy was still alive after he was said to be dead. The triumph and tragedy of the Wild Bunch is shown throughout their reign in the Wild West by robbing banks and trains. The Wild Bunch ruled over the Wild West for 20 years. They performed robberies like the American public had never seen, and they did this without killing anyone. These desperados are still known for their robberies 100 years later.